You're listening to Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions on product and business strategy. And now, here's your host, Bob Caparelli.
Welcome to another episode of Dear Strategy, where we answer all of your questions about product and business strategy. Real questions from real people in real companies just like yours. Welcome back, strategy creators, to another great episode. Going to continue on with the theme from last week. Last week, we talked about communicating your strategy. And in that case, we were talking about internally communicating your strategy based on certain some of the same techniques that you would use to communicate your products and your business to the external world. And this week, we're going to continue on in that in just a little bit of a different way, but I'll get to that in just a minute. Before I do, just another shout out for the company that sponsors this program, the company that I work for and founded Strategy Generation Company. We provide training and workshops and tools and resources for strategy creators all over the world, companies large and small, in all different types of industries. So we hope you'll go to our website, check us out at strategygeneration.com, especially if you're interested in taking advantage of strategy training, any of the workshops that we might deliver. We also are working on online workshops, which we hope to have up and running in the next 6 to 8 months, maybe even sooner. But hopefully you'll be able to take advantage of all of those different things. So go check us out again, strategygeneration.com. So let's go ahead and get to today's question, which is asked by the same person who asked last week's question as well, which is why I wanted to kind of feature them back to back, because it really kind of ties into this same theme of communicating. Again, last week in episode 75, we talked about communicating your strategy inside your company. And so this week, we're going to do something similar, but I'll go ahead and get to the question, which is, Dear Strategy, how do you communicate new features to users in a fast, agile release cadence? So we've talked about, Agile in the past on this show. We've talked about the difference between Agile and waterfall development processes. And without repeating all of that, I'll just say that Agile is the iterative development process you would typically use in a software type of an environment. The idea is that you're developing features in, 2 and 3 week kind of sprints. You're releasing them to the world in either 2 to 3 week cadences, or sometimes a little bit more extended, depending on how many sprints you want to combine into a release, but certainly faster than you would have for tangible type products. And so, new features are coming out all the time, and people in the marketplace are being bombarded with that to some extent, and it's hard to keep up with, right? So that's the essence of what's being asked here. It is a little bit more of a development/product management question than maybe a strategy question per se. But the reason that I wanted to feature it is because I think it goes towards the overall strategy for a software business. And that's really the direction that I wanted to kind of answer this from. So let's just say that with Agile and with features coming out on a regular basis, I will tell you as a consumer, it can get pretty overwhelming and pretty complicated, and you can really fail in a pretty big way on this if you're not careful. So the whole idea with Agile, of course, is that, consumers don't have to wait a year between software updates to get, bug fixes and new features and things of that nature. So especially in a software as a service or SaaS type of an environment, you can make new features available whenever they're ready. The other thing that you can do is get constant feedback from your customers and give them, feature enhancements and updates to their product that meet their needs in a much faster way than you would have if you were in the old kind of software environment or waterfall environment where you're releasing product once a year rather than once every few weeks. So there's a lot of benefits to the consumer, obviously, and a lot of benefits to companies as well, because you're getting fast feedback and things of that nature. The problem, though, is that if you are releasing things faster than consumers can consume them or keep track of them, or faster than you can support them, then I would say you're going to get a negative impact rather than a positive impact. And it's something that you really have to be careful of if you work in a software environment. So let me kind of step you through this a little bit, because I think what most companies will do when they release new features is they're going to blast an email to all of their users saying, here's what the new release is, here's what the new features are. I would say if you rely on that solely, you're going to make a misstep, because most people are not going to read those emails. Many of the times those emails are not even going to arrive at people's inboxes because they're going to go directly to spam. And even if they do arrive, If you haven't made the headline really catchy, and as we talked about in last week's episode, made the headline so that it's about me and something that's going to benefit me, then you can pretty much rely on the fact that people aren't going to read those emails. Now, of course, there are ways to get me to read the email, right? To make sure that, again, you put the headline in something that's going to attract me or make it about me. But you have to assume that you can't rely on that, right? Because a lot of people are not going to open those emails. If they do, they're not going to read through them all. So that's just not the way that most people are going to, get notified of these changes. So what you have to do in addition to that is make sure that you're ready from a support standpoint to have everything else on your sites updated so that when people go and look for what has changed, that you're ready to answer their questions proactively. So what do I mean by that? Well, I was just using a piece of software the other day. I won't say exactly what it is, but it was something that I'm telling you, probably 15 years. This is an old piece of software, right? And it's been updated many, many times, obviously. But for 15 years, a certain function functioned a certain way. And of course, it's a big part of my workflow. And I learned to use the function this way. They changed it on me. The functionality is still there, but they changed where it is and how it works and things of that nature. Now, did they blast an email about it? Probably, but I certainly didn't get it or didn't remember it or didn't read it. So that is off the table at that point, right? The way that really happened was when I went to look for this thing, all of a sudden it didn't exist. I was like, what's going on, right? And I couldn't find how to use it. So where's the next place I went? The next place I'm going to go is to their website and go to their support methodology, whatever that is. Sometimes that's a blog, sometimes that's a forum, sometimes that's a knowledge base or an FAQ, sometimes it's a combination of all of those things. And I'm going to look for what happened here, right? And I want the answer to be readily available. I can't tell you how many times I've done that with companies and there's no information on there other than from other very frustrated users who are trying to figure out the same thing. Don't let that be the only answer, right? When you make a feature upgrade or some type of a change, go out to your own support forums and put your training videos up there and update them. Create a page on your blog that explains what's going on. Now, put an answer proactively in your community forums and pin it to the top of a topic thread, or update your FAQ so that when I go and look for this thing, I'm going to quickly find an answer, right? Be on top of that, but most companies don't do that. Most companies wait for a customer to say, hey, what's going on? And it's probably many months of customers answering, questions to each other before the company even jumps in on anything. So that's one of the things that I would say you should really pay attention to. And that does require resources, right? It requires resources that sometimes companies don't anticipate, but you should do that whenever you're, building a new product or releasing updates to an existing product. Other places that you could look at, if you have Facebook groups, many companies will have Facebook groups, communities of users and so forth. Go ahead again and make the announcement there. Don't wait for customers to ask. Make the announcement, pin it to the top of that group so I can quickly go and find out what's going on. Now, would I want to be proactively informed of, updates, releases, things like that? Absolutely, of course. But as a consumer, I understand that I don't read every email that comes across my desk. And I understand also that I don't get every email that is sent. So as long as when I go to your company website, I can quickly find what is going on, I'm going to be okay. But if I can't, I'm not going to be okay. All right. Now, there's one other thing that I have to say on this, and it's just a pet peeve of mine. When you are making feature upgrades and feature updates and things like that, be really careful about what you're charging for them, right? Because I've seen a lot of companies lately that clearly they make small feature enhancements, and then what they do is they charge exorbitant amounts for it, and then hold it back on lower, pricing plans. And that just gets people really mad. I use a piece of software right now that this was done to me, right? I have a fully featured functional piece of software that I pay $30 a month for. I was given a functionality that I was using and using happily. The company decided to update that functionality, and they gave it to me for free for some period of time. And then they decided that if I want that functionality that I had all along, but that they decided to update, if I want that functionality anymore, I have to pay $60 a month, literally double the price. Obviously, that's not worth it to me. Obviously, that's not something that I'm happy about. Am I locked into doing it? Unfortunately, in this case, I am, because it became a part of my integral workflow. But I am so pissed off about it, I can't even tell you. Like, the minute that I can move away from this company, I absolutely will, because I think it's just a crummy, crappy thing to do, right? So at the end of the day, what they've done is they've given me a feature enhancement. They've upgraded some functionality, but they did it for their own profit rather than for my value. Now, would I have, willingly and happily paid a little bit of extra money for an updated feature? Yes, of course. I want to support a company that's enhancing their programs and making things better. But what they clearly did here was change something that really didn't need to be changed so that they can charge me double because I'm locked in. And that's just dirty chess. So I bring that up because you need to be really careful of that when you are updating features. Make sure that if it's for the consumer, you know what the consumer values that feature enhancement at, and you're not trying to gouge them, right? Because they are not going to be happy if that's your strategy. So hopefully that's a little aside, maybe a little public service announcement for those software companies that are thinking of doing that, because frankly, it's becoming a little more common than I like. So just pay attention to that if you can as well. So hopefully all of that is helpful. Again, if you have a question that you want to be featured on the show, please go visit us at dearstrategy.com or dearstrategy.net, and you can ask a question through the Ask a Question link on that website. Also, again, please don't forget to subscribe to the show. Wherever you're listening to this, go ahead and hit the subscribe button. You'll get all of the new episodes downloaded directly to your mobile device or your computer or whatever else, but you'll also help to get more visibility for the show. We will rank better in search engines if you are subscribing or more people are subscribing, and that will help other people to find the show as well. So hopefully you'll do that service as well. And of course, don't forget to go visit the sponsor of the show, Strategy Generation Company, at strategygeneration.com if you want to take advantage of more free tools, resources, and don't forget to sign up for the newsletter at that site as well. So that's a lot to do. While you're doing all that, don't forget to make time for the plan, and we'll see you back here on another episode of Dear Strategy. Thanks for joining.
Thank you for listening to Dear Strategy with Bob Caparelli. To learn more or to submit a question to be featured on our show, please visit us at dearstrategy.net.